Chi-Yu, Annihilate, and Cyclizar are now banned from Smogon standard play. Let's talk about why. First of all, these bans were quick bans, which means they were banned by the OU Council, not a public vote like how Terrestrialization had. To understand why quick bans happen, you have to understand Smogon before quick bans. The idea is that the people should vote on what does and does not get banned. This meant that in the past, everything used to go through a suspect test where people voted to ban stuff. The problem is that there were often Pokemon that were so clearly broken that they would get voted to ban by 90% of the people, and it was just really clear cut. But you still had to go through the multi-week process of democracy voting on something whose result is going to be pretty obvious to begin with. So eventually, for the really obviously broken stuff, they just decided that if we have a supermajority of votes in the OU Council, we can save everybody's time instead of a multi-week process to ban something with a 90% ban rate anyway. So if something gets quick banned, it's because it would undoubtedly get banned in a public vote anyway. If there's even a little doubt, it would go to a public vote because that's the default idea, that the public should make the decisions. Quick bans are generally speaking exceptional circumstances. The first ban, Chi-Yu, is pretty expected. It's one of the strongest Pokemon of all time with its ability Beads of Ruin. Of course though, strength isn't everything. After all, Rampardos is one of the strongest Pokemon of all time too, but it's terrible competitively. The difference between Chi-Yu and Rampardos is that Chi-Yu has good other stats too. Chi-Yu's base 100 speed is very respectable, and it means it can outspeed a lot of different Pokemon. Fire plus Dark is a high value combination, and very few Pokemon can switch into Chi-Yu. It comes into the game, outspeeds a lot of Pokemon, and then threatens a one-hit KO or two-hit KO. Even Pokemon like Roaring Moon don't actually beat Chi-Yu, because Chi-Yu has lately adapted with Fairy-type Tera Blast. Choice Specs, Choice Scarf, Nasty Plot, Flame Charge are all excellent movesets and dominate basically every game. The only reason it took so long to get banned was because of Terrestrialization. The Terrestrialization vote was a big deal and naturally took a long time. Because Terrestrialization is so fundamental to the metagame, decisions about banning Pokemon would be taken after the result of the Terrestrialization vote, and Chi-Yu finally got banned after the decision about Terrestrialization. And speaking of Terrestrialization, it's a big reason why Annihilate got banned too. Similar to Chi-Yu, it was always pretty broken, but a decision on Annihilate was always going to be dependent on Terrestrialization. Chi-Yu does Chi-Yu things with or without Terrestrialization. Terra Fire is nice for overall power, and Terra Fairy is nice to beat Roaring Moon and Tyranitar, but it's not a fundamental change to what Chi-Yu can do. On the other hand, Terrestrialization is a fundamental change for Annihilate. Annihilate dominates the game with its bulk up Rage Fist moveset. Honestly, any Pokemon is devastating when it can get a 300 base power attack, and Annihilate is perfectly positioned to do that with moves like Drain Punch, Bulk Up, and Taunt. However, Annihilate can be a defensive liability if it can get outsped and one-hit KO'd. This is where Terrestrialization comes in. When you play against an Annihilate, you have to react to its initial Ghost plus Fighting type. Then it can type change into literally anything. Fairy, Water, Fire, Steel, even Normal. Fairy, Water, and Steel are generally good defensive types, while other types are meant for specific things, like how Terra Fire is used to beat Will-O-Wisp Dragapult. If you attack into the wrong Terra type, all you do is boost Annihilate's Rage Fist and it knocks you out. Annihilate is already an independently terrifying Pokemon, and changing its type defensively is particularly good for a Pokemon that benefits from getting attacked and can heal itself with Drain Punch. With Terrestrialization, Annihilate was undoubtedly one of the top Pokemon and widely considered to be overpowered. Without Terrestrialization, it's more unclear, so the decision was made to ban it after the result of the Terrestrialization vote. Finally, we have Cyclizar, who might be surprising to you because I haven't mentioned it on the channel a whole lot. I'll actually make a full video about Cyclizar to explain it in detail, but basically Cyclizar was similar to Chi-Yu in that what it does is not fundamentally related to Terrestrialization. The main thing that made it broken was Shed Tail, plus its unique combination of speed, regenerator, and utility moves like Knockoff. Earthworm isn't very good and also has Shed Tail. That's why Cyclizar was banned as a whole and not just the move Shed Tail. It's Cyclizar's Shed Tail move and its unique skill set. Shed Tail is functionally a Baton Pass with only a substitute. Baton Pass as a whole is already banned, and the idea of passing something to a different Pokemon is fundamentally overpowered in the eyes of many. Again, I'll go into more depth in a future video. Cyclizar can Shed Tail and then pass out substitute to some of the best sweepers in the tier like Multiscale Dragonite. It turns the match into a deadly guessing game where you have to pick the right Pokemon to attack to try and break the substitute. You can try and attack predicting the Shed Tail into Dragonite, but what if they simply Shed Tail into Volcarona? If you pick the wrong Pokemon and you don't break the substitute, all of a sudden that Pokemon, which is often one of the best Pokemon in the tier, now has a free setup opportunity. This becomes even tougher to deal with when paired with Pokemon like Reflect, Light Screen, Grimmsnarl. The strongest Pokemon in the tier getting a free setup opportunity courtesy of Shedtail is pretty dominating. Cyclizar is good at doing one thing, and that is setting up Shedtail. That one thing is so broken that Cyclizar was deemed ban-worthy and was banned from OU, which is Smogon's standard play. That's it for the current slate of bans. It's unclear if and when there will be future bans at some point, but at least there's clarity now that terrestrialization is here to stay, and decisions can be made around that knowledge, at least until Pokemon Home comes out. Is there anything else that should be banned? A lot of people are talking about Garganacl. Let me know down in the comment section below.